Wait for it. Wait for it. And we're live. Hey, all you crazy sci-fi and fantasy fans. It's time for your daily dose of shenanigans over here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. Just a couple of nerdy veterans and one chaos coordinator geeking out over our science fiction passions and fantastical fantasies. A place where magic is king, the sky is the limit, and space is the place. We are the podcast that puts the fun in dysfunction. So without further ado, let's dive in. So before we start, we will warn you that the books we're about to talk today are mature in content. The conversation, though, we will try to keep it PG-13-ish, but you've been warned. Nothing that we would have to rate the episode as NSFW, but the books are. So with that out of the way, we're going to let so Jacob, tell us who you are.
Hi, I'm Jacob Hollow. I am primarily an author of science fiction, but that is not the hat that I am wearing this time. I also collaborate with my wife, Edie Skye / HP Hollow, on a urban fantasy harem series.
You got to own it, Jacob. You can't sound embarrassed by it. You're right, smut.
I'm sorry. This is the first time that I've been in a podcast talking about this stuff. Give me a break.
We're glad you have popped your cherry, sir. Wait, what?
You're less innocent now.
All right. All right, Miss H.P. Hollow, otherwise known as Edie Skye.
All right. I wear two different hats. As H.P. Hollow, I write the Monster Punk Horizon series and The Wizard's Way, which are all fun fantasy adventures that are safe to read if you are a young adult. Under Edie Skye, I do not write young adult safe things. I primarily write, hold up, my brain turned off for a second there. I thought I heard the cat doing something stupid. Oh, he's on the bed. We're good. Anyway, as Edie Skye, I primarily write harem fantasy adventure, and it kind of began as a sort of Jacob, but mostly me pen name, because Jacob would write my outlines and help me conceptualize the basic world building. And then once the outlines were done, I would just run with it. But with the series we're talking about today, it's become much more of a genuinely collaborative pen name, much to both of our surprises. And so my first under Edie Skye, or our first under Edie Skye, was Titan Mage. And today, or actually I think 2 weeks from now, we are launching the Blood Knight series.
Okay, you guys have been busy. Who needs sleep when you've got books to write? So, how did you pick the name Edie Skye, since you had to pick a pen name?
Well, actually, I had another pen name chosen, and at this point, I can't actually remember what it was, but I Googled it at the last minute just to make sure no one had it, and someone already did. And so I was getting ready to put together my pre-orders and stuff, and then scrambling, and I couldn't land on a name that I really enjoyed. And finally, I just got really exasperated, and I was like, you know what? Most of Titan Mage takes place on airships in the sky. We're going to have sky in there somewhere. And I thought some more, and finally was like, you know what? In Mass Effect 3, Edie kind of got that hot robot body, so what the heck? We're going to put Edie in there somewhere. And so, Edie Skye. And like most of my decisions that I make when I'm being a total exasperated dumbass, it actually became a really good name. And so, Edie Skye.
Yes, the pen name started as a joke.
Oh, yeah.
Not only the books, but the pen name, too.
Titan Age also started as a joke. Like, I sincerely did not expect that series to take off. I didn't advertise it. I hadn't intended to advertise it until at least 3 books were out. So the advertising money would go further. And then suddenly it became a bestseller on release day. And I was like, well, we need to change up some of our release plans now.
So if you agonize over names as much as I do, that means you go to a lot of like baby name type sites.
Oh yeah.
I always laugh hysterically when my YouTube commercials are all like baby products, because mine are like 15 and 17. And I know exactly why. It's because all the baby name websites where I'm looking at like trying to find the perfect name, and it tells me, oh, it's time to clear my cookies again. So I have to go in and defrag just to be safe.
I take 2 different approaches to naming things. I will either research a single minor character's name for days until I find the right one, Or I'll make a neat typo and be like, oh, that's a cool word. I'm going to use that as a name. There's no middle ground.
I dig it. I'm so anal about it. When I wrote my first series, the military organization for a regiment, I had it all filled out, and I had a name for every line item, even if they never got mentioned. And then when I'd write the battle scene, I'm like, oh, they lost 12. Scratch those names out, promote those people, put new people at the bottom. And so everybody had a storied history that nobody but me knew about. And I'm like, crap, it was a lot of wasted time, and no one will ever see it. So I don't do that anymore.
But it makes fun background content.
It does if I ever wanted to go back, but the danger of writing in other people's universes is you kind of need their okay for all your great ideas. So much more fun to just build your own sandbox and you can do whatever the heck you want with it.
Oh yeah, that's what I do.
Okay, so you guys also came, in addition to coming up with the pen name you share, Edie Skye, you created your own publishing imprint for this. How did you come up with Spice Rack Press? I mean, I'm digging it. I get the double entendre, but
oh yeah, it's the double entendre is exactly why we chose it. And I actually was pondering logos, and I gave Jacob some sketches, and all of the logos I was planning were a little too risque. There was like a sort of mud flap woman holding a pepper grinder in a very suggestive manner, and we couldn't land on an actual logo that we liked, so it just, or that we could agree on, that is, so it just ended up being text based. But yeah, it was entirely the pun.
I dig a good pun. It's right up there with dad jokes in the panoply of awesomeness.
Yes, I love me a good dad joke.
You should do the like for your Patreon, so you can hide it behind the paywall just for safety. You should share some of those ideas. And now I'm going to have to figure out how much your Patreon is so I can look at those ideas because they're probably hilarious.
I might have thrown the sketches away, but I can certainly re-sketch them.
The good thing, Nick, that they are married with and writing as the Spice Rack Press is they don't have to worry about HR nightmares that might come if these two weren't married in writing this novel.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm our HR department, so we don't have anything to worry about.
Who are you going to tell?
You have things to worry about. Who knows?
It's like she appropriately touched me at the water cooler. And then the reply is, you liked it. And then you're like, yeah, I did. And because we run our shop out of the house too, Apogee Comics. So same type of things. She's HR. I don't know what my job is other than drawing shit. So, but it's those same type of things. Like, you'd like
you're the trained monkey who just types away on the little art station.
Yeah.
All right.
That's me.
We already know we're going to let you stay because you two are awesome. You're like some of our favorite guests, but we're going to ask you the religion questions anyway.
Okay.
So the first one, Stargate, Babylon 5, or Battlestar Galactica?
Oh, this one's going to be easy. Which of us goes first, Jacob?
Well, Jacob will go first this time, and then you can go first next time. Jacob, no pressure.
Babylon 5. I just I love the structure, the overarching story, the narrative, the little seeds that get planted very early that blossom into very, very big things. And I actually purchased whatever new release, Blu-ray release it was, like a remaster or something. And Heather and I, we've been going through it. We're in season 3 right now, and we are. In fact, the next episode is like one of the big ones that that when you see lists of like top episodes, it's always near the top. So she's got one of the best episodes of B5 up next.
Outstanding. All right. What about you, Heather?
I have actually never seen Stargate, so that one automatically gets cut out. Yeah, it was both. A lot of these shows, it kind of they initially aired in the era when I was too young to care about them, and I just haven't gone back in my sci-fi adulthood and watched them. So Stargate is on the list of things to watch. And I would say that I enjoy elements of Battlestar Galactica, and I think we watched the first season, but then Jacob spoiled one of the ending elements for me, and there's a particular character where, relative to the spoiler, I really hate what happens to his character, and it kind of ruined the trajectory of the series for me. So Battlestar Galactica is out for that, and so it leaves Babylon 5. Not that Babylon 5 is the best by process of elimination, but like as Jacob said, we're watching it now, and I'm watching it for the first time because it was another of those where I knew it was on, but I was really young at the time, and it just wasn't. It didn't appeal to my age demographic. But I like it for a lot of the same reasons that Jacob does, in that it's very well structured. It's very complex, but the characters are so well done that the complexity is easy to follow, and you feel emotions about everything that happens in the series. And we're only 3 seasons in, like Jacob said, but it's hands down one of my favorite sci-fi series ever at this point. And so it's tough finding something to follow it, but
Nick, I think when she implied that she was too young to watch what we watched as young adults, that we are old, and I feel a gray hair coming in.
Yeah, I got a whole beard. I got like parts of a beard, and I got the Doctor Strange thing going on. But I've only seen a little bit of Star Trek, a little bit of Babylon 5, and a little bit of Battlestar Galactica. And I'm old as dirt.
Noises. 1 second.
Yeah, for me, Stargate all the way. I watched Stargate, the movie that started it all in theater, and I looked over at my parents when we watched it. I'm like, this is going to be a franchise. It's going to grow into something big. Now, the fact that I was right is probably incidental because I said that about a lot of things that just fizzled and died as well, I'm sure. But I loved it from the beginning. I loved SGU. I loved Atlantis. I loved SG-1. It was all great. So
You're going to do a remake of the movie.
I don't mind expanding a universe with more content in it, but just doing reboots to do a reboot is stupid.
It's got Captain America in it. It's probably going to be awesome.
But that story's been told. Tell me more stories. All right, Stabby, what about you?
Oh. In a momento.
What was the question?
Babylon 5, Battlestar Galactica, or Stargate?
Battlestar Galactica. I like the drama.
Okay.
That
explains why we're friends.
I had their spice rack, what they were talking about, just stuck in my head, and I caught myself doodling. So
we're already corrupting brains. Yes.
Outstanding. All right. And because we're polytheistic, Beastmaster, The Never-Ending Story, or Ferngully. And you get to go first, Heather.
Oh, man. It is a tough one for me. It's a tie between The Never-Ending Story and Ferngully because those are two of my absolute favorites coming up. But
they both break your heart in different ways.
Oh, yeah. But I think I'm going to have to lean more toward The Never-Ending Story just because it's one that I think about more in general. And it's... Oh, I love it. The wearable spice rack. Yes, the sexy spice rack. Perfect.
Take notes, Heather. Take notes.
I'm steering this into my brain. But yeah, the Never-Ending Story. I am an absolute sucker for 80s fantasy films. I don't care how cheesy they get. I love them. And the Never-Ending Story was one that I watched a ton of times as a kid, and it just kind of seared itself into my personality. And so definitely Never-Ending Story.
Tell me where your childhood trauma stared.
Oh, I watched a lot of Don Bluth movies as a kid. So definitely some stuff in there. Littlefoot's mom, the death of Littlefoot's mom in The Land Before Time destroyed me as a kid. Not Finding Nemo, Little Nemo had a really terrifying bad guy for me. And it's one of those movies where I absolutely love it as an adult because it is this weird little, like it kept getting traded between animation studios. And so it's kind of a hot mess because of that. But also at one point, like Hayao Miyazaki worked on it. And it's a strange little movie, but it had a terrifying bad guy. And
and the animation was top tier.
Oh yeah. So. And I'm trying to remember, I know there were others, but because I grew up watching 80s movies, and so, but I always remember just the sheer weirdness of certain Don Bluth movies. Like there's unexpected darkness in those. Well, maybe not unexpected if you're familiar with Don Bluth, but yeah, I just remember those in particular because I watched them like crazy.
Okay,
I love them to death even today.
What about you, Jacob? Never Ending Story, Fern Gully, or Beastmaster?
So my answer is going to be pretty similar to Heather's. Never Ending Story. It stuck with me, and while it doesn't pop up into my head particularly often nowadays, when it gets mentioned, my memories of it are much more vivid than any of the other two that you mentioned. It's got that special sauce. What can I say? that the really great 80s fantasy movies do.
Speaking of traumatic movies, I actually found not the idea of the Nothing, but the one wolfish character that represents the Nothing in that movie. When I was very little, that thing absolutely horrified me. And definitely speaking in terms of movie trauma, again, Who Framed Roger Rabbit it's my hands down my favorite movie ever in adulthood. But I could not watch it until I was maybe 15 or 17 because of that one scene with the shoe. It was just horrifying to me.
Which they put in the ride.
That was the first movie where they did the movie and cartoon combo, I think.
Mm-hmm. And it's the only one that has actually done it that well. I'm a complete animation nerd, you guys. You get me started on anything animation related and I will go forever. When I wanted to go into animation, so there's a whole history there.
The lady with the noir pinup red dress look, Jessica
Rabbit.
Well, not all of our listeners know that, so I was explaining who she was, not throwing.
Who doesn't know who Jessica Rabbit is?
We've got people that listen in the 20-year-old demographic. They don't know.
Oh, they know. They know. I guarantee you, they know. I have a 14-year-old kid who knows who Jessica Rabbit is.
All right. Well, then maybe I underestimated them. But Nick, all right. So your choice, Beastmaster, Fern Gully, or Never Ending Story.
Okay, I'm going to take Beastmaster out of the mix. Shouldn't be in with the other two. Formal protest. Double formal protest. I'm going to go Sheldon on this. So Fern Gully or... I'm going to have to go with the Never Ending Story because that was the starting point of my childhood trauma through film. Okay. A horse getting caught and Atreyu just trying to get him out. The wolf, obviously scary as hell. Yeah, Never Ending Story for me.
All right, Stabby.
Okay, so I love Falcor. I really do. I have a thing for him. He's one of my favorite dragons because he's part dog, and that's come on. But there's a couple things swaying me the other direction. One, you have Christian Slater and my childhood crush Robin Williams in Fern Gully. You have the king of creepy, Tim Curry. And then throw on top of that I have this amazing mental image of my husband falling into Fern Gully on duty last year. So
okay, well, clearly I have to run my movie combinations together because Nick did not approve of. I was just in a rush, so I'm like, they've done the other questions. Quick, what do I put?
Bro, that's where you send me the message, and I'm like, oh, okay. Do we want to go more with the fantasy animation? I know what you get. Just ask the question, man. I got you. I sit around all day just drawing and watching movies. I got time.
It was a close second for me too, though. I watched it so many times when I was a kid. It was another of those that was a part of my young DNA.
So
once again, top tier animation.
Oh,
it was top tier. Oh, I fell over. Oh, my head hurts.
Pardon me. Whoop.
I'm concussed.
So for me, I guess Beastmaster is one of my favorite cheesy 80s kind of fantasy movies. So I really needed to pick that one because that's why I put it in there. And then I just couldn't find anything in the same vein in the 5 minutes before we went live. So I threw that up there.
JR, I don't
with Ferngully.
I don't hate it, man. Because we've talked ad nauseum of how Beastmaster is probably one one of my favorite fantasy movies, cheesy B movie fantasy movies, you know, up there with like Deathstalker and like some of the other ones that have come out. Don't hate it. I don't think it needs to be in the same category as Ferngully.
That's valid.
I think it's closer maybe to the Neverending Story, and that's a stretch. Like, I wish I could stretch my paycheck as far as I just stretched that theory. You know, but don't get me wrong. I love Beastmaster. We need to do a Beastmaster episode, which I think we have planned coming up.
We do. That's set for April. We're going to be recording that.
Oh, I'm so stoked. But anyway, on to the task at hand.
All right. So because we've got new questions. Oh, Stabby's got something to say.
I will say this. If you took Beastmaster out, you put Little Nemo in, you'd literally give everybody of a whole entire generation just all their childhood trauma would be coming back, because just the idea of the bed getting up and running away with you makes you not safe in your safe space. Because as a kid, when you get scared, you run into the bed, you cover up under your covers. If your bed gets up and runs away with you, there's an issue.
See, that already happened to me in the 80s with bed knobs and broomsticks.
Oh,
that's also a good one. But here's the kicker. I did not know I held on to that trauma from Little Nemo until we recently watched the live action Slumberland with Jason Momoa, and it was just Little Nemo. And I was like, I swear to God, if that bed starts walking. And sure as shit, the bed started walking. I was like, we're watching freaking Little Nemo. I'm not okay.
This movie seems all too familiar for some reason.
Just saying.
Okay.
Whole generation of trauma.
All right. So this one is just for Heather and Jacob, because we've all answered these ones before, and there's only so many ways to say it. But what's your favorite dinosaur? Heather.
Pterodactyl. I love them.
Excellent. That's my third favorite. What about you, Jacob?
Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Oh, you went there. The little grabby hands.
The king.
Okay. We've added Jurassic Park to a movie review episode list as well, because why the heck not?
Oh yeah, I love it.
Have any of you guys seen the T-shirt with the T-Rex and he's got like the extending grabber arms in the chain? And it says, "I'm invincible." Oh, why do I not own that shirt yet?
So, and Jurassic Park gave us some of the best one-liners. Life finds a way.
It really did. It was a perfect movie on so many levels.
It holds up too, surprisingly well.
I've been working on a Jeff Goldblum impersonation since the movie came out, and I don't think I'm getting any.
Anybody? Yeah. All right. And because we are civilized human beings here at the Blasters and Blades podcast, we are no longer knuckle dragging troglodytes. We have one more question for you. Coffee or tea, and how do you take it?
Which of us goes first? Go, Jacob.
All right.
Coffee with milk.
Excellent answer. And what about you, Heather?
I'm a hardcore coffee person, and I usually have iced lattes, though honestly, some of the coffee shops I go to, I'm such a regular now that whenever they accidentally make extras or have some kind of coffee they otherwise have to throw away, they just kind of give it to me at this point. So I drink lots of different coffees, and sometimes I don't always know what's in them.
Some of the stuff that you drink, I don't even wouldn't even consider coffee. It's just like it's a coffee flavored liquid dessert.
You like sugar, Heather. Let's just admit it. You like sugar, and that's okay. But you're adding coffee to it, which makes it awesome.
What kind of
like
coffee?
When there's like half an inch of like caramel syrup at the bottom, you've got a little too far.
A long time, thank you very much. That's con coffee. I need the extra energy. You know how hard I go at cons. But yeah, I have my fancy little frilly milkshake coffees for when I'm just out doing stuff and having fun. And then whenever I'm sitting down and writing, it's like iced latte, and I drink those slower, and so they last longer when I write. So
do you frequent the chain shops, or is there some mom and pops near you that are really good?
There's a ton of mom and pop shops around us, or like really, really small local chains, or just singular locations, and I'm a known entity at a lot of them.
We have one that I like those more.
We have one that's local to us called Badass Coffee is the name of it. It's near my mom's house that I go to, and it is so good. I don't ask for the calories there. If I'm drinking there, it's because I'm giving myself the calorie treat, because I like the frou-frou drinks too, Heather. There's no shame in my game. Stabby and I go get a little basic white girl when it comes to fall with the pumpkin spice lattes, and Nick just shakes his head at us.
Don't let him trick you. He likes a caramel macchiato. But I will say
there's nothing basic about the caramel.
There's even the comic shop or one of the comic shops that I frequent locally has actually put in a coffee bar, and so a comic shop is also one of my go-to coffee places now. Like they know my order, and whenever I come in to pick up my trading cards, they start making my coffee for me right when I walk in.
If it's not called Assemble Coffee, they missed the point.
I will say this. Coffee Mate just dropped a new line of coffee creamers because we kind of live out in the mountains. So I don't get like Starbucks and stuff like that much anymore. But they just dropped a new coffee creamer line, and it's all based on the characters of Bridgerton.
What?
What is Bridgerton?
Oh God.
It's basically readable smut. I love it.
It's watching readable smut.
Yeah. It's like
we will talk offline, Heather. You and Stabby are going to fill me in because that sounds interesting. But we're here to talk about your smut, not TV smut. So
no, that's not where I was going with it. I was just going to say they have an awesome English toffee coffee creamer right now. Out.
I'm gonna go drink all the Bridgerton coffee creamers. It's a legit show. It's basically it's Regency romance that has a lot of romance in it, and I tried to get Jacob to watch it by calling it Pride and Prejudice with booty, and that wasn't enough. But I got him to watch Pride and Prejudice.
Oh, but you've got to get him to watch Pride and Prejudice and Zombies because that's acceptable.
I have tried. I got him to watch 2 different versions of Pride and Prejudice, and I can't get him to watch Pride and Prejudice and Zombies because he knows it's a terrible movie. And I make him watch terrible movies enough, or made him watch terrible movies enough that he's given me a limit on how many bad movies I can recommend to him each year. And I've already.
So here's the trick: you fall asleep with Bridgerton on the TV because Nick wakes up to use the bathroom or go get water or whatever, and he winds up sitting there watching it until he
Yes. Well, see, the thing about Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, it's a bad movie, but its casting is amazing. It's like you have Doctor Who as Mr. Collins, you have like a whole bunch of Game of Thrones actors in it, and it's like Catherine de Bourgh is Cersei Lannister, and then I think Mr. Bennett is Tywin Lannister, and it's just you have those connotations that you're watching the movie with, and it makes it so much more entertaining. And I think Matt Smith actually is the only likable version of Mr. Collins I've ever seen in that movie. I mean, there are some impressive elements of it, but I feel like it took itself too seriously for its concept. And some movies can do that well, but it was a little bit off. And if it had been a little bit more goofy, it would have been an excellent movie. But yeah, I have opinions about Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. I love it.
It's right up there with Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter for me. I mean, it's so bad it's good, but I like a good cheesy movie.
Oh, I love a good cheesy movie.
I'm all about it. But speaking of all about it, we're here to talk about your book. So that's one heck of a crappy segue. But since we made it to the half-hour mark, nerding out about everything but your books, we're going to throw that commercial in real quick just to get it out of the way. Then we don't have to worry about interrupting. And so because of the content of the episode, I didn't want to put anyone else's name on it and maybe offend them. So I sponsored the episode because I don't care. No shame.
They came in peace, or so the aliens said. Here are 18 examples of their lies. Venture into the unknown with us. Who is out there? What will they want from us? Join us in the adventure of First Contact. Each story explores a different facet of aliens meeting humanity. Buy Contact This, a First Contact anthology, and read some of the industry's best storytellers today.
All right. Thank you for sticking with us through that commercial interlude. And now let's get about talking about the book that brought us here. And so in order to do that, I think we have to start by showing this beautiful cover. Boom! Wait, no. Boom! This time is for real. That was a test of the emergency broadcast system.
Our illustrator understood the assignment for this book cover.
I would say so.
I like the dice here at the bottom. Like that's really understated. I like the text that you used. I don't know what font that is, but I'm digging it. I'm digging the emphasis on the wings. I'm totally focusing on the other stuff for real. but it's a gloriously put together cover.
Oh yeah, it's got to be one of our best. The artist is Yanai, and he's done a lot of covers in the harem genre, which is how we came across his work to begin with. And so we got him doing this series for us, and his stuff has just been spectacular. We just got cover 2 in, and so that's up for pre-order as well. And then he's working on cover 3 for us, and so we're excited to see what he comes up with next because he's done some incredible stuff.
So, as our artiste in residence, Nick, would you like to comment before I show at book 2's cover?
Vampire boobs, awesome. I like a pert rack, you know. Oh, succubus boobs, even better. I mean, I'm already sold. You don't have to sell it anymore. No, that's a beautiful cover. I'd like.
That's one of my favorite things about writing in this genre. I don't have to do all that much marketing to make it sell. The Edie Skye pen name has sold so much more effortlessly than all of my other stuff, and it's totally because boobs. Like I'm putting hot ladies and boobs on all of my covers from now on.
So for those of you at home who don't get to see the side chat that's on the StreamYards as we record, I have Stabby in the corner saying, "What color are her eyes, JR? What color are her eyes?" And all I could say was eyes. Wait, she has eyes? Echolocation. We're good.
She got purple sunglasses on. Why look at the eyes? There's 2 other assets I'd rather look at right now.
She's got glorious wings.
She does.
That's it right there. You nailed it. Because I'm such a simple creature.
When did this become a horror?
So jokes aside, like with this cover, it is like very artistically done. It is like just as an art piece, right? Like it looks nice. Mm-hmm. And boobs aside, like the background, the chair she's sitting on with the layers and the textures, it almost looks like you're sitting in the room with her. The extra features that you put in there, like it wasn't just hastily thrown together to throw some cleavage in your face. It's a complete picture that sells a story. So
it's really well constructed. And Jacob can actually offer more on this because he was the one who put together the stuff we sent to the artist. But whenever we send book descriptions or whenever we send information about covers to artists, we tend to be pretty low key in our demands on them because we want the artist to have fun with the image. And so we told him that here's hot succubus, there's heavy gaming elements, have at it. But Jacob, did you have anything you wanted to add in that respect? Or
well, I mean, we it's important that we let the artist's unique style and flair. We don't try to repress that with making our instructions too strict. So we try to give guidance about okay, this is the what the composition needs to achieve. This is the character. This is the setting. But within these broad parameters, go have fun. And he did.
Oh yeah.
And he produced a really amazing artwork. I guess the one thing that I wish was different about the cover are the dice, and I wish there were more than just D6s in there.
And you had your chance to fix that back when he was asking for
well,
it.
that was
distracted, Heather.
But this is actually from a scene in the book. It's actually chapter 2 or 3, I think, and it's at the conclusion of a pen and paper RPG that the main character doesn't actually realize is more of a primer to what is actually the hidden occult world.
Tell me you have graph paper that they drew the dungeon on in there.
I'm sorry, I didn't. What?
Tell me that scene has the game master or the dungeon master, whatever you call it in the book. We used to do it graph paper, and you would draw your dungeon, like the map of like where you were going in the story. Like,
is that
part of the scene?
There is a map, but it's the scene focuses more on like the interplay between the different characters, because we're in that scene we're introducing, or a sequence of scenes we're introducing the main cast, and we're trying to let their characterizations shine through the characters that they are playing. Now they're all it's sort of a little bit of sleight of hand in terms of how we're trying to educate the reader, in that, okay, the werewolf is playing a werewolf character, the slime girl is playing a slime character, the succubus is playing a succubus character, and then you have the reveal. It's like, oh wait, everything that you learned about their abilities in the game, that actually applies to these characters, and then you see them using those abilities later. So it's the introduction as, hey, this is a group of hot gamer girls have invited the main character over.
It's a definite yes situation.
It's like, yeah, I'm down for that.
It's every gamer boy's dream. Like, I got invited to a game tonight, and it's all a bunch of hot chicks.
Well, part of it is that, given that it's urban fantasy, it allows us to do a few things with the designs of the female characters, in terms of making them very desirable, not only from, obviously like a physical standpoint and a personality standpoint, but also from like their interests. So they're all gamers. That some of them more so than others. Some have preferences. The character you have here, she's a witch. She also enjoys going out to the range and shooting guns. She's also an aspiring esports player. So
she's the full package in lots of ways.
So we're just going for it.
It's giving me some very Suicide Squad vibes, and I like that little character on the top left. It almost looks like it's the Master Chief, but clearly not, because that's a franchise.
Yeah. There's the character in the book. She collects figurines and stuff as well, and so we told the artist, like, have some fun with that and make up some stuff. And so
I have learned some of my best covers came with when I gave so much wiggle room. Like, I told one cover artist that it was a cross between the Enterprise meets, what was it? The Enterprise meets Death Star meets X-Wing, and just threw all the whole kitchen sink out as a joke, and he turned it into one actual spacecraft in the image.
Oh, cool.
So I think you're right to give like a lot of latitude for them to be creative, because you ended up with some excellent final product. I mean,
oh yeah.
I think these covers would still work even if you took the pretty girl off the picture with the level of detail.
What?
The pretty girl.
What are you doing?
Genre appropriate, but yeah, you're right. There's so much interesting stuff going on in them that they could definitely just stand on their own.
Yeah. What I'm saying is the image is a whole picture, Nick. It's not just the girl.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Strange flex, but whatever.
Some of us have to pretend we're civilized.
I'm not pretending anymore. Life's too short, bro.
All right. So we've got the covers out of the way. So let's go to talk about, like, what can you tell us about the world where these stories take place? Because Nick is going to be distracted if I leave those images up.
What?
Have at it, Jacob.
So it's set in a contemporary setting. It's kind of an ambiguous state in the southern U.S. How southern is it's somewhere. Fictitious city of Chester Creek, and the main character's name's Clark. He can't perceive any of the supernatural elements that are around him, and that's because he's been hexed by a vampire. In fact, most people are hexed by vampires. And when that spell is removed by the succubus,
how does she remove it, Jacob?
I think you know.
And still be safe for work.
Well, it's so
No,
far
wait,
it's still
if we
safe
go
for
that-
work.
if we
I
go
haven't
that way, I
crossed
gotta
any
ban.
lines yet. But that's the nature of her magic as a succubus.
There are
But
spicy scenes by chapter 3 in this book.
But after that point, he's able to perceive the supernatural elements around him, and he joins an organization called Broken Fang. It's basically a very small group of monster girls that are out to take down the vampires who secretly control the world, and they're very ambitious in this regard, in that there are tens of thousands of vampires across the world, and they are 5 college students.
A little.
But
That actually fits with the average college student, so I'm still not losing that je ne sais quoi right now.
But what they have going for them is that Clark is, and why they recruited him specifically, is that he is a descendant from a line of vampire slayers called Blood Knights. And they are essentially the greatest vampire slayers the world has ever seen. They are almost completely extinct at this point. But he has a very powerful kit of magical abilities at his disposal. And
he has ways of gaining additional magical abilities that
that
that's not a spoiler, is it?
That's not really, no.
For half the point of the
No,
book.
he can power
He
up
can absorb
from
certain things from people he does certain stuff with.
So speaking of that certain stuff, does Jacob write it? Do you write it? Do you write it together? Like, what's the process for this
particular series? I think you did all the scenes, right, Jacob? I did not.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and for Titan Mage, I wrote all the spicy scenes, and there's actually a whole hilarious story behind why this series exists in the first place, because it's the way the two of us work together is we'll come up with worlds and universes and stories and whatnot together, and then Jacob's a better outliner than me, and so he'll produce the outlines, and then for Titan Mage, the entire series was finished by Jacob in outline form, and then I just took it and put the words and world building and everything to it.
I just as a quick addition there, I did write the first few chapters of the first Titan Mage novel to kind of help set the tone and get the train rolling.
There's a whole story behind Titan
Heather
Mage.
absolutely took it.
Oh yeah,
after that.
And Blood Knight was another series that we had intended to produce in the same way, where he did the outlines and I did the writing. But then, Jacob, do you want to take over this part, or shall I go?
Well, I had an opening in my schedule, and suddenly I'm suddenly being distracted by the changes going on to people's windows.
Because of the YouTube rules, when their son walks in, they just have to turn the camera off real quick so we don't get caught up. Because Europe has some weird rules about having the family bloggers that caused a ripple effect, I guess. I don't know enough about it. I just know that they shoehole your podcast if that happens. So they just cover.
Yeah, and then I have to talk like this so you don't hear me yelling at my son.
But yeah, so
to make corn on the cob.
So where was I?
You were telling us about the process of writing this series with Heather. So
I had a break in my schedule, and I really, in terms of my traditional publication stuff, I was a little bit ahead of my writing schedule. I had 2 manuscripts turned into Baen Books. I had a gap before I needed to start the next project. I'm like, yeah, I'll work on this. And
we don't ever idle in this house. Like, if we're not doing something, we get stressed because we're not doing something.
So So I started working on Blood Knight Book 1 mid-November. I am done with the first draft of Book 3 right now. So
Holy
I've
crap.
actually done over 250,000 words in 3.5 months.
How long is each novel?
80,000 words?
80, 90. I think right now the Book 3 tops out at 94K.
Oh, that's respectable length.
Mhm.
Okay. Crap. I
Yeah,
salute you, sir.
and the
One
funny
day I will catch up to you. One day.
One day I will catch up to him. The thing is, like the terrifying, or not terrifying is the wrong word. The thing for me is that I started my current novel at the exact same time that he started.
You started before me.
I did.
You started before me. You need to finish.
Getting to the end of that novel, and he's written 3 novels in less time than it took me to write one. And part of it is that I, prior to seeing him finish 3 novels in as many months, I preferred to write. I like fountain pens, and I like writing by hand. I like the tactile feeling of writing. It helps me think better. But I have started typing my stuff now because I want to be able to write faster. Because
have you thought about the writing pen where you can write on a tablet and get the same effect, and then it transcribes it as a Word document?
I haven't tried it yet, but that's something worth considering because I have an iPad that I type on. Like that's what I take to the coffee shops with me these days, and I've got the nice little Apple Pencil, so I could try that. I think the reason why.
I'll give you a spoiler. It's not going to be the same because I did the same thing with the my drawing, and I missed the lead. I missed the feel of the graphite on the paper.
Yeah, I initially bought my iPad for art because, long story short, we watched Arcane and it made me want to draw everything all those years ago. And so, and I'd been into art before because, I'd wanted to go into animation. And so got myself an iPad Pro and got one of the, there are screens you can put on them that emulate the feel of graphite. And they're not quite the same, but they were close enough for me. And so I already have that graphite texture.
For me, it was the weight of the pencil.
Ah, yeah.
So when I switched to the Apple Pencil and my iPad Pro, it's like, yeah, okay. So I put the paper layer screen protector type thing they have on there, and I was just like, it's like it feels close, but I know it's not right.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong, I work digitally, but
I will sketch on real paper a lot of times and then do my coloring, like scan it in and do my coloring. Because one thing I found is when I'm sketching, I like to be able to bend the surface I'm sketching on. You don't want to do that to an iPad. And so do my sketches.
Yeah, they break.
And inking. And then I ink and color digitally.
Yeah, that's what I do too. I'll do my my pencil layouts or my pencil finishes on paper, analog, and then I'll scan it in, put it in, send it over the iPad, work on it there for the inks and the color parts. But yeah, no, I feel you on that one.
So do you come up with what JB's name is for your main character? It says just you list in the description his initials. JB Clark.
That is a Jacob thing.
Okay, so JB stands for Joffrey Baratheon. And I
go by JB as well.
I blame the fact that I was under a severe amount of nerve pain when I came up with the character's name.
Writing that fast would do it to you.
Binge on this poor character that did nothing to you, Jacob.
So it's just sort of like, it's like, okay, what's the worst possible name I could come up with for this character? And that's what came out.
I mean, if that was my name, I would use my initials too. So it fits. So
there's a whole thing.
Yeah, he very much does not want his. It's JB or it's just Clark. Most of the characters just call him by his last name. In fact, Emma, who is the succubus, she didn't actually realize that Clark was his last name until they were looking at their character sheets for the RPG and his full name was there. He's like, "There's no way that's your name." It's like, yeah, my parents were a little weird.
Okay, so what can you tell us about, with obviously no spoilers because book 1 is out, but book 2 is on pre-order, if I understand correctly.
Book 1 comes out 2 weeks from now. and then book 2 comes out in July. We've got 7 books coming out this year, and my brain is getting them all.
July, yes.
Yes.
So when this episode airs, your book 1 will be for sale.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. So it will be on sale then.
So what can you tell us about the companions for Clark?
Well, they're all gamer girls, and they all are. Their backgrounds are interesting, and some have more dramatic backgrounds than others. And I don't know how much I can say, Jacob, because I don't know.
Well, I mean, we can talk about the girls.
Okay,
that's not really spoilers.
So I would say Emma the succubus has the simplest background, which is that she's a succubus and likes doing succubus things. I haven't read the subsequent books yet because
the other thing is that Emma is one of the smartest members of the group, and so she is when it comes to like magical lore, and like how the various demi-humans and monsters, and if a lore dump is required, Emma is normally the one that can provide it. So the glasses aren't just a stylistic thing. She is very much a super smart geek.
One of the things, I don't even know if you did it intentionally. It's something that I did intentionally in Titan Mage, but I like how our like traditionally sexiest character in both series has also ended up being the smartest character. And in Titan Mage, I did that intentionally because there's this stereotype that a woman can't be sexy and smart at the same time. And I was like, screw it, we're doing both. And I like that showed up in Blood Knight as well. But in terms of other characters, unless you had something else you wanted to add.
Well, if you want to talk about one of the girls.
Oh, okay. So they're all monster girls, and another that we have is Brooke, the wolf girl, and she is amongst my favorites because she's this she's dog based. She's really energetic. She's the athlete. She occasionally gets the zoomies and will sometimes like leave things cooking on the stove because oh my god.
So there's a scene there's a scene where she wants to cook Clark breakfast, and so she puts on some bacon, but then she's like feeling really anxious and she has to go around and run around and burn off this energy, and so a grease fire starts, and Clark comes out and just looking at the ruins of breakfast after it's been, fire extinguished. And Clark's like, what happened? And basically, Brooke got the zoomies and had to go run around for a while.
Do you make the joke about Scooby snacks with her?
No, there's no.
Yeah, I don't think you do. We should though.
But
for our novel.
But So Clark then asked her, so, well, how often do you cook? And she's like, oh, all the time. It's like, okay, well, let me rephrase this question. How often do you cook, but it does not involve a microwave or a toaster? And she says, once, including this time. It's like, well, then it probably wasn't the smartest idea. Now, was it, Brooke? It's like, no.
But yeah,
would you like some Pop-Tarts for breakfast?
There's actually a running joke. Maxim magazine back in the early aughts released a book because it was making jokes about bachelor cooking, and it was called A Man, a Can, and a Plan. And everything in these recipes comes from cans you just sort of pour together in like a crock pot. Now that I'm trying to eat healthy, I couldn't touch those recipes because they're so salty. Yeah. But it was actually pretty good, and it's probably the only way I could have cooked back then. So I relate.
Do you want to talk about one of the other ones, or?
Oh, okay. So yeah, we have 2 others. There's Sammy, and then there is Ashley. And Sammy is a slime girl. Not that she's like all sticky all the time. She can take a solid human form, but she has shape-shifting abilities related to that. And I don't want to say too much about her backstory because it's actually one of the better secrets, or secret is the wrong word. It's one of the better reveals in the novel. So Jacob,
yeah, we'd like readers to experience that one on their own. We have been told by the beta readers on Patreon that that they felt it in the feels. They weren't expecting those sorts of emotions from this book.
So instead, let me ask you this, because the concept of a slime girl, what made you go there? Because that is not a normal, when you think monsters, that people go to, especially when they're trying to write sexy monsters.
Well, I think one of the things that actually led to it is just my straight up business brain. We actually did a little test where one of the things I do is I will use Facebook ads to test how the people I market to react to certain images and certain headlines and certain things. And there was a period where we just created, like, AI generated a whole bunch of hot monster girls and ran ads. Just where the ad led was irrelevant. I think we just led it to our Patreon. What we really wanted was to see what images got the most clicks and the most interaction. And I don't know if it was that it was a slime girl or if it was just the color of the slime girl or what, but overwhelmingly the slime girl image got a ton of clicks. And so we were like, well, we should write a slime girl and see what happens. And,
No, we already had the design for Sammy at that point.
Oh, did we?
Yes.
I feel like the things happen like they overlap.
No, it's the other
Did I
way.
get it back up? Well, I know that there are a few monster girls that exist either in this series.
It's in. You're thinking of some of the designs in Tamer.
Yeah, in Monster Girl Tamer, which is another one that I'm working on. But so there's that very analytical, people like clicking on this, so we'll show them this kind of thing. But so why do we have a slime girl, Jacob? Because I don't know.
Because I felt like it.
You just felt like it. Well,
and actually, she's been one of the most interesting characters to write because, well, the physiology is completely alien. She is the most monstrous of the monster girls, whereas like Brooke in her hybrid form, of course, she could go full werewolf, but in her hybrid form, she's got wolf ears and a tail. And that's really the only monstrous thing about her, other than her superhuman strength and durability, even in that form. Whereas Sammy is. I'm sorry, what?
She's going to be on the next cover.
Well,
book 3.
Sammy's going to be on book 3's cover.
Sammy, not Brooke.
Brooke is going to be on book 4's cover.
Okay, there we go. Like I said, we got 7 books coming out, and my brain is just all over the place.
All cattywampus.
Yep.
But the other thing is that in book 1, Sammy she can't touch people because she's toxic, and that actually, and it's not she basically has a very nasty status ailment touch attack, and she can't turn it off.
Which makes the spicy scene with her complicated.
but where there's a will, there's a way.
Okay. So I do have a question. You did mention that in the sort of in between phase, your werewolf has the tail and the ears and whatnot. The wolfoid version of werewolves, they tend to nowadays, you see the human form and the fully shifted form, but that halfway wolf humanoid kind of vibe, most people don't do that anymore. That kind of went out of favor in the 80s as far as that goes. What made you decide to lean into that? I like it, but it's it's not something you see as much.
Harem trope. Yeah. Like within the harem subgenre, like hot girls with animal features, as long as it's like not straight up furries in general, but as long as it's like just the ears and the tail, it's totally a thing in the harem genre. It never died in that subculture.
Yep.
Clearly I need to read more.
Same thing with cat girls being another big one, especially with anime fans.
Oh, I've seen the cat girl pictures because everybody that got on AI generating art has started creating dozens of them.
Oh yeah,
I've learned so much in this episode about y'all.
Hey, you don't yuck their yum and whatnot. All right, so you've got the 7 books planned. Is there going to be more, or is it a closed loop? At the end of 7 books, the series is done.
Well, in this
particular series is 5 books. Heather was including the other series that we're publishing at the same time. So Blood Knight is a 5-book series, and there is very much a beginning, middle, and end. And there are that end was basically locked at a very early stage, and we have elements that we're setting up in book 1 that will have payoffs in book 5.
Mhm.
So there is a full coherent plan. We're going in with a plan. We are executing the plan, and I think readers will appreciate how everything comes together, because as I said at the beginning, it's 5 college students against the super powerful vampires who secretly control the entire world. But we know exactly how they're going to achieve their goal.
Then the other stuff we have coming out, the first 2 books of Monster Girl Tamer, which is kind of it's a harem offshoot of my Monster Punk Horizon series that I wrote as HP Hollow. It's actually being billed as a collaboration between HP Hollow and Edie Skye, so that they're more connected on Amazon. But there's that. The first 2 of the 3 in that series are coming out. And then you've got 2 books coming out from Bane. You've got the Thermopylae Protocol, and then you've got Soul Blazers coming out. And so it's books everywhere this year.
Thermopylae Protocol? We're going to have to reschedule for that episode, because Spartans at Thermopylae, what little boy didn't love that story as a kid?
Yeah, it's not quite. This one is book 6 in the Gordian Division series, and it's
the time travel stuff.
Yeah, and it's not quite as historically based as the previous protocol.
But
books
there
is a connection,
and they are holding back the Horde.
Okay,
it's in a very, very different form than the original events.
It's a fun one. I think it might actually be my favorite in the series.
It sounds like Clan Hollow is trying to ensure that we are poor forever as they take our money. They don't even. She's laughing about our poverty as she steals our money because we have to buy these books now.
But
as long as you have entertainment in the book form, it won't be poor. Yeah.
Well, make sure you don't spend it all in one place. All right, Jacob. Jeez.
I'll cash in some Bitcoin. It'll be fine.
All right.
We appreciate your support.
As you mentioned, this is a closed loop, 5 books. So for those that like completionists, there's an ending. It's not going to be one of those books that drag on forever. And then, oh, by the way, you don't get an ending because it stopped selling.
Yeah.
Is there any plans to potentially do spinoffs in this universe? Or are you going to keep creating new universes with this?
So there is the potential to have more stories in the setting and more stories with the main characters, but
it comes down to time, really.
Well, it comes. Yeah, it's like as we like to say, in our copious amounts of free time.
It's one of the actually
basically for me after I finish the next 2 books, I'm switching over back to traditional publication projects, and so I'm going to be working on the my first Omniverse collaboration with David Weber, and that's going to be 3 books, and then there will probably be more after that we'll be working on together in the Omniverse. So
congratulations, that's big.
Yeah, that's huge. The thing about their military sci-fi in particular is so complex that there's no way you're going to finish 3 books in 3 months.
No. I figure that the first Saganami novel will probably take me about 6 months to write. Is what I'm thinking, and that's with a lot of pre-planning ahead of time. Actually, Tom Pope and I, we finished the initial plans for the naval battles in book 1, and we submitted those to David. And he's like, "Yep, look good." And it's like, yes, we got approval from David on the naval battles. Yes.
Yeah, in terms of continuing Blood Knight, I actually have a concept for an associated series that I've been throwing around. But when it comes down to it, I also have 4 or 5 other Titan Mage series that I would like to write also. And I really miss writing in that universe. And so, but as for me, once I finish Monster Girl Tamer, I'm jumping back into Titan Mage. And given that we tend to release roughly a series a year, it's probably going to take 5 years to release all those unless I write really, really fast. And so there's always, I mean, schedules change, but I really want to get back to the original universe that kicked off this pen name. And so it's just a matter of time, essentially.
So, quick question for you guys, because as our lovely audience knows, I am the dyslexic one of the group. And so sitting down with a book, it takes me months to finish a book because I will start getting frustrated and I'll put it down and I'm like, I'll come back to it later. So do you guys offer these as audiobooks, or are you going to?
Absolutely. They have been picked up by Royal Guard Publishing. And they've been sending me bloopers from the recording, and it's been hilarious.
Oh my goodness, these bloopers!
Based upon the latest blooper I got, I think they are close to finishing the. I think they're close to finishing book 1. So they have signed on for all 5 books. And
nice. Congratulations.
Thank you. The narrators are Daryl Mayfield and Jess Trepanier. I'm probably mispronouncing her last name, so sorry, Jess. They're the same narrating team that did Titan Mage, and they did an excellent job on Titan Mage. So I'm really pumped to hear what they come up with.
That's what she said. I had to do that at least once in this episode.
It wouldn't be a spicy episode without at least one. That's what she said.
Normally, pre and post show, Nick and I, it's like every other word, but we're trying to be civilized. So obviously, you've got the concept of a blood knight. How did you come up with that? Like, I'm kind of jealous I didn't think of the idea first for some of the fantasy that I'm writing, but like, where did the origin of that concept comes from that built the series around?
So I was, I actually, Blood Knight is actually the second iteration of the core concept. And the reason why I went with that over the original is that it felt more like a counter to vampires, basically using a vampire's strength against it. And once I had that, there are other deep lore aspects that kind of blossomed out of that kind of, say, like particle-antiparticle pair that made some. It fed into other elements of the lore that I can't talk about because it's book 4 spoilers.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's sort of like the anti-vampire to a certain degree. Whereas you have the the vampire is taking, it's feeding, whereas the Blood Knight is gaining strength from his allies, and it's a willing giving of power. And that's one of the aspects that makes the Blood Knight so powerful, is that he's able to absorb abilities and spells from his companions. And so he's essentially this aggregating central power point. And so he just keeps getting buffed and buffed and buffed as the series goes on. And like, man, the power curve with this character, like the first time he has to go up against a pure blood vampire, he barely makes it. And by the end of, like, I don't know, book 3 or 4, he's just gonna take a look at those guys and just one shot them. It's like, but that's also part of the the power fantasy of the harem genre. And it's not just about the power, it's also being a protector. That Heather and I have been really surprised by how much readers have wanted more romance.
Oh yeah, that's
an aspect that we've leaned into very heavily with Blood Knight. It's
See, when I
that the main character in the harem that comes together around him, that there is love. And the L word actually gets dropped pretty darn early in this series.
Yeah.
And also it's just sort of fun for, writing characters like this, having fun together and kind of their personalities bouncing off each other.
Oh yeah,
So
it's very much an ensemble cast where they're interesting on their own, but they're much more entertaining as a whole.
So, if you guys had the option, would you guys live in this world?
No, there's vampires. They'd eat me. I'm cool with this.
Hey, I have to ask,
Now, if I was like some kind of cool monster girl with magic powers, sure. But if I'm just a regular old human, no. I'm going to be the first to die when I show up in this world.
So you want plot armor to go in.
Hold on. It would be a fun world to live in after book 5. Before then, it kind of sucks. And not in a good succubus way, okay? Yes,
right.
I went there.
And there goes the same.
Oh.
It's okay.
Yeah,
we like you anyway, Jacob. It's the bow tie. Hey, does Clark?
Sorry, I keep
Clark
talking
wear
over
bow
you.
ties? Please tell me Clark wears bow ties.
No, unfortunately.
No, Clark does not wear bow
He
ties.
should.
Damn, missed opportunity, Jacob.
That would be too much like a self-insert.
Yeah, that's the point. You got to throw yourself in your work sometimes.
There's supposed to be insertions going on.
Well, I mean, part of it is
That's what
that
she
we
said.
deliberately, for a lot of the series, well, for Titan Mage and for Blood Knight, we keep the appearance of the main character ambiguous, and that's partially
It's
to
by
help
design. It's because at least at the time when blank slate self-insert character, but we did intentionally leave them blank so that the reader could picture whoever they wanted. And it's actually been really interesting to see who everyone pictures as the main character with Titan Mage, because you can tell what generation the reader is from by what actor they use. And it's really funny because some people say that they picture Locke as Dolph Lundgren. Is that his name?
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
Which is not what I pictured. And
And congratulations to
I've-
Dolph.
I've-
He just got his citizenship.
there are a lot of people who picture him as Chadwick Boseman because of the narrator, the primary male narrator of the audiobook. And so there's just a huge variety of how readers picture the main character. And it's one of the more fascinating conversations that I have with readers. I had a point to make also, but I forgot what it was. But in terms of romance, yeah. When we put together Titan Mage, a lot of the harem novels that we had read at the time had no romance. It was pretty much adventure and then some sex scenes and then more adventure. And so we thought it was a trope of the genre. And it turned out that we had all the harem books we had been reading at that time were just older harem books, and the genre had developed past them. And so whenever the first few Titan Mage books came out, a lot of readers enjoyed the books, but said that the romance was either non-existent or felt very transactional. And I was like, oh, this is great. I get to write actual romance now, because I wanted to, but we had left it out because we thought the lack of romance was a genre trope. So it's one of those times where you get criticism about your books and you're like, yes, it's a rare time, but it's nice when it happens.
All right, Nick, before you ask your question, so Jacob, you can tell me what your favorite kind of monster girl in general for the genre is. And Heather, if you had to become one, what you would pick.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
You know they're a couple, right? This could actually put them against each other.
Ooh. Yeah, I didn't think about that, Nick.
Are you thinking, Jacob?
No, I don't have to think. I already know the answer.
Well, answer then. Which of us is supposed to answer first?
Okay, Jacob, go first. She's indecisive. You will take the lead. Be commanding presence with your bow tie of power.
Be decisive, man. Damn it.
Succubus.
What?
Okay.
Actually, that's the sexiest one. I'm not at all surprised by that. Sorry, Jacob. I'm going with Cat Girl because I don't know. It's the anime nerd in me. I've always liked the Cat Girl with the cute little
You guys got to
ears.
agree on something. I'm trying to figure out which costume I'm sending y'all.
So now I have to write a story that has a bow tie of power involved just so I can credit Jacob.
Do it.
We broke Stabby.
Oh God! You woke her up. You guys got to put her down now.
Okay, Nick. Now you can ask your question. I'm sorry I interrupted.
Yeah. I don't know a whole lot about the harem genre or subgenre. What is your general reader like? Age range, demographic, that type of info.
A lot of them are age 30 plus. I would say a lot of them actually probably lean toward 35, 40 plus. Would you say, Jacob?
I think so.
It's a lot of range. The genre very much reads like well, I mean it's pulp adventure basically. And I kind of get the vibe of the people who enjoy this genre are people who grew up on fun 70s and 80s pulp movies and stuff like that. Is basically kind of am I getting the vibe right, Jacob?
Yeah.
And but yeah, it tends to be an older audience. And one thing that's been interesting too is that there's a lot of it's one of my hobbies is going on to certain reader groups and posting the hot girl covers, because there's always that audience in general reader groups that will see the tits and be like, oh my gosh, this is objectifying women, this is terrible and awful, and you're an immoral person. And
oh my God, think of how many girls are on OnlyFans right now objectifying women. Save that bullshit, man. We're all into tits.
There's a stereotype of the harem readership that they're all kind of incels who have never touched a girl before. And one of the things that I found is, first off, Andrew Tate himself says that incels don't read, so that automatically cuts that crowd out. But also, a lot of the people I've interacted with, a lot of the readers, they're men who are in perfectly happy relationships with their wives and have kids and are like competent adult people, and often they read the books with their wives, like together. Like there are so many couples that have come up to us at cons and love Titan Mage. And a lot of times the wife will be more enthusiastic about it than the husband, which is not something I expected. But it's just, there are certain elements of the harem readership that, I mean, obviously every fandom has its dark underbelly, but it's actually been kind of wholesome interacting with a lot of these, because one thing is that I pretty much act as the face of Edie Skye. Like whenever we do conventions, I'm the one who has Edie Skye as the alternate name. And as a woman writing conspicuously in a male-dominated genre, and male-dominated by male authors, but also by male readers, I fully expected to get really uncomfortable messages eventually. And I have gotten one flirty review. But in terms of direct messages, every single direct message has been something like, can we see extra stats for the robots? When are we going to get a map? Can we please have a world map? And it's been just all like stats and nerd stuff. And it's just been so fun to interact with everyone, because it's so much more wholesome than I expected it to be.
Well, do you think like some of your properties you could merge into like a tabletop role-playing game?
Oh yeah, we've had people ask for.
So funny that you should mention that, because in all the characters in Blood Knight are gamers. Well, all the main cast. So one of the things that they do starting in book 2 is that they'll get together and play a role playing game, and the role playing game is called Titan Mage.
Yep.
So they are basically playing through scenarios from the Titan Mage books.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And I've had lots of people ask for an RPG, for a card game. I've had a few fans where I've just sent them my stats and they have adapted. What are you doing, Dazzle? Are you trying to eat my board again?
Your Skinwalker is out of control in the background.
I'm gonna show you the cat because he's here and he's not being insane. Come here, buddy.
She has a pork.
He's been sitting quietly on the bed this whole time, which is so good because last night when I was interviewing Lydia, he was trying to eat the blinds, but this is our new kitten, Dazzle. Normally he's chaos, but right now he's just being chill.
Well, clearly he needs a chaos coordinator.
All right, you go do whatever you want, dude. All right, so I forgot what I was talking about. What was I talking about?
So I do have
games. Oh yeah, so we have had people ask. Some readers have asked for the stats so that they can adapt those stats to, I want to say, Savage Worlds. So there's a Savage Worlds stat line floating out somewhere, and I had considered sitting down and making a game myself. But one thing I have learned over the course of writing Monster Girl Tamer is I am just freaking terrible with stats. And so Jacob writes all my stats. And when it comes down to it, while I would love for there to be games, and while we definitely, there's definitely room in world to adapt the world into a game, it's just something we lack the time to do again. And so, Dazzle, what are you screaming at? He's yelling at me. But it's the kind of thing that would only happen if someone licensed it. And so
it's not a project that we're going to take on.
Yeah,
on our
there's
own.
definitely potential for it.
Since we mentioned it, and I asked Jacob and Heather, we got to put Nick and Stabby on the table too. So, Nick, favorite Monster Girl. Stabby, if you're going to become one, what would you pick?
Oh, well, I'm going to let Stabby take this one first because I got to go through the warehouse of files in my brain.
Totally a vampire, I think. They seem to have better fun.
Plus,
Will
if you
they
don't like them,
sparkle?
you can just like drain their blood and problem solved. So
I like the way you think, Heather. Jacob, you picked well. Just don't piss her off because, you might disappear.
I'm just thinking they have more fun. They feel everything deeper.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, will you sparkle as a vampire girl? All right, Nick, you could save this one.
All right, so what was the question again? What was I supposed to?
Your favorite
the monkeys
monster
are lost in the warehouse. Favorite
Yeah.
monster girl?
If you're going to pick a monster girl, what kind would you pick?
I'm gonna have to disagree with Stabby here and go with the werewolves. Animalistic instincts, high sensitivity. Unfortunately, they have an acute sense of smell, and things get smelly. But
I'm just werewolves for me too, because like werewolves were the first supernatural creature I discovered in my journey through literature. So it's kind of always had that special place in my heart.
Yeah, same. I've been a huge fan of the lycanthrope since I was a boy. I started off with Lon Chaney Jr.'s The Wolfman. Then I watched American Werewolf in London, way too young. Got into the Monster Squad. The Wolfman has nards. Huge fan of The Howling with E.T.'s, Elliot's mom from E.T. I've always been drawn to the werewolf to the point where after this conversation, it got the gears running of an old story that I was working on back in the early 2000s about a werewolf. So this has inspired me to get back on that book. So thank you guys for that. Werewolf.
So here's a question for you, Jacob and Heather, since you study the genre. Obviously, the monster girl you pick, either as to be one or to have one, is these kind of can help define what you view a power fantasy as. So do you find that to be enlightening when you engage with readers about which part they like the most? Like, oh, okay, I know who you are now.
Honestly, this is the first Monster Girl series we've written. So at this point, we don't actually have the context in terms of interacting with readers. But Jacob, you're making a little smirk. What are you thinking?
Well, I was just thinking about the request for an arachnid girl, and that's just one that I don't really get.
We do get. Now, I will say it's not Monster Girls, but on the Patreon, I will frequently put out like requests for girls whenever I'm writing, say, short stories. I do a lot of Titan Mage short stories whenever I'm invited to anthologies, and part of the Titan Mage universe, it's sexy. There's got to be a hot girl, kind of the equivalent of the Bond girl, And so I'll put out little calls and just tell my patrons to describe their favorite kind of girl, give me a girl for this story. And you get some really interesting responses. It's really cool. Like I think amongst my audience, the sort of rough tattooed girl is very popular, so I got to write a tattooed girl. I've had various requests for muscle mommies of various musculatures, and so definitely going that route. There's always
You've obviously visited Twitter.
There's a large group of people who like the sort of bookish. What's the name of that one character from The Mummy? Evie? Is it Evie?
Evie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so that sort of like subtly sexy bookish character, and so it's really cool to see what people are interested in character wise. I'm trying to remember if there are any like really really weird ones that stood out. I try to write basically whatever my readers want me to write.
Scooby-Doo.
But yeah, there's it's been fun. It's some of the most fun interactions are like the what kind of girl do you want to see interactions.
I don't know. For me, the first love was always Xena, Warrior Princess. So.
Oh yeah.
No spider chicks. Don't do spider chicks. That's going too far. But you can play with Medusa.
You know, the crazy thing though is that I didn't think they would work, but then I read a harem novel that actually I think the novel was Herald of Shalia, and there's a spider girl in it that is actually just a really sympathetic character, and I did not expect that to happen with a Spider-Girl character, but it worked. And it takes a certain style, but it is possible.
Now I'm wondering where the web comes out of. You know what? Nope.
God, JR, no.
No?
Down.
I just
down.
She's now going to kill me.
Poor Nick she's going to stab me. I always get stabbed for these things that you say.
Okay.
36 stab wounds just on the left side. And I just want to know, is the spider chick into bondage? Because that just makes sense.
Jacob, did you write spider chick into Blood Knight? I can't remember. I know
burn the house down.
There is a spider lady in book 3.
Nice. So Jacob and Heather, we've obviously gone far in afield and lost our family friendly rating a long time ago. But what was the experience of co-writing this together like? Because you hadn't done a lot of that before. I've heard it destroy marriages in some cases.
We've done a fair amount of work together.
We've done more than it looks like. To a certain extent, all of our books are collaborative in a certain way because I read and edit everything he writes before it goes out. In terms of our official collaborations, though, every collaboration has been kind of different. And I think this was honestly one of the more low-key ones because once we had our little meetings and you had the outlines done, you pretty much went through the first draft. And I read the first draft expecting to have to make significant stylistic changes to make it fit with the same vibe as, say, Titan Mage, because the Edie Skye name as a brand is known for fun adventure that is balanced with a certain amount of really characterful comedy. And I have a very distinct voice when I write. And I expected to have to go put a lot of that in my run through of the draft. But one thing I found is that Jacob's rough draft actually emulated my writing style really well. And so there were things that I had to add, but it was one of the most low-key edits I've ever done. Like there's stuff that I added, of course, but it was really, really easy to edit because he faked writing like me so well. And I would say that of our other collaborations, Titan Mage was a little more intense. It was just kind of the reverse because I did the principal writing, and then you had your chapters that you wrote, and then there were certain elements that you tweaked. I think the most intensive collaboration of ours, at least named collaboration, was The Wizard's Way, which was technically my first novel. And part of that was just because I had drafted it, and I'm really good at characters and world building, but very bad at structuring plots. And at the time, I was a pantser writing my first novel, and it was there were good scenes, but it didn't string together as a whole initially. And Jacob and I we took it apart, did an outline, put it back together. I wrote stuff, he reworked some scenes and then reworked certain characters. And that one was definitely a very intensive collaboration. But they've definitely gotten easier as time has gone on, to the point where this collaboration is, I think I might have, while I put some work into the editing, I think I might have actually put a little bit more work into the conceptualization part. Wouldn't you say, Jacob? I can't actually remember at this point. We've written so much.
It all just blurs together, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does.
But I mean, the like Heather said, we're even if it's like one of us is writing a scene, we're still talking to the other one about bouncing ideas off of them, or
does this work?
Reading passages, hey, how does this sound? Or hey, I hit a road bump. I need to talk about this problem.
I think the two of us read excerpts from each other's work to the other nearly every day. Like, I know I do it more than you. When it comes to my writing techniques, one of the things that actually helps me a lot is to take whatever I've written that day and read it aloud to Jacob when I get home from the coffee shop, just to see how it vibes, if there are any details that I need to clarify and stuff like that. And usually my drafts are so clean these days that I generally don't, but hearing immediate feedback from him really helps. And I think it helps you too, Jacob, whenever you read your excerpts to me. You don't read aloud nearly as much as I do, but it really works. It's a really useful technique.
Sometimes I just read stuff to show off.
Oh yeah. Sometimes I'll just be like chilling in my room, and Jacob will come in with his phone and be like, "Hey, listen to this." I'm captive because I'm cozy and I don't want to move out from under my blanket.
That's valid. Good blanket's worth its weight in gold.
Yep.
Why the whoopee is special.
That's why I have two of them on my couch, JR. I have two whoopies.
I have one in
dog.
Go ahead. I say I have one too. I lost mine in the field, lost in air quotes, and it came home with me.
I have my original whoopee from 1997. It's almost white now, when it used to be camouflaged. That's mine. And
Wait,
then
what
the
is
newer
this?
one
I don't know what these are.
So
it's not a
technically,
poncho liner.
Oh, okay.
But you basically use it as a blanket, and it's like Linus's blanket, only for soldiers. So totally manly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably the warmest blanket you'll ever have, based on the synthetic material that it's made out of. You shove that thing, and like it could be like 20 degrees outside. You throw that thing in between you and an actual poncho and wrap yourself into it like a crocodile. Do a crocodile roll in it, and you will be warm as you
cool.
You might actually get a little hot. You got to kick a foot out.
Matt Best did a smoking jacket style of coat that he did with the material and the look of the whoopee. And if I had had the money at the time, I would have gotten one, and I don't even smoke anymore.
Scroll Factory makes a hoodie out of the whoopee material.
Huh.
That is interesting. I will have to check that out. There goes my paycheck, but it's
I'm
totally
going to send you
worth
the
it.
links. Or hold off and maybe I send it to you for Christmas.
There you go. All right. So speaking of buying stuff, obviously you have the books and the audiobooks coming out. Do you plan on doing any merch from this? Because you're generating a lot of art for it.
Oh, yeah. We have, if you go to our shop at store.hollowwriting.com, we already have merch up for it. A lot of our readers requested desk mats, especially, or card gaming mats. And so we currently have card gaming mats up for the first two books in the series, and we'll be releasing more as the series goes on. But yeah, one of the things that we initially created this shop for direct sales of our books, but I have access to a whole bunch of print-on-demand apps, which means I can basically make infinite merch. And so I often ask readers to request stuff. It's like, hey guys, what do you want to buy from us? What kind of merch do you want? And so I will make custom merch as long as the art that I have works on it. I will add whatever readers want to buy to our shop. And the desk mats have been very popular because our readers are gamers. So
okay. So is there going to be any branded dice? Because I'm a sucker for a good dice. I own way too many.
That's something I will throw into the mix and see if I can make it.
Okay. Well, was there
a on-demand app that allows me to make it? Yes.
Outstanding. So I will get the link for that store and throw that in the show notes. Was there anything about the Vampire Slayer series that we didn't ask that you think we ought to know?
I think we've covered the essentials. It's going to be 5 books. It's going to be complete within a year-ish. So if you like to, if you like complete series, yay! You have anything else, Jacob? I think we covered most everything.
And for you listening at home, we are going to be planning her coming back to talk about the Titan Mage series as well, because this was kind of fun. And so, we do what we got to do. We're grown-ups and we need a break sometimes from the serious stuff. So, all right. Well, with that being said, where can people find both Edie Skye, and then I'll ask each of you about your individual author stuff. So Heather, where can we find the Edie Skye stuff? I'll link it all in the show notes, but what's the best place?
Well, there's the website edieskye.com, but all of it is also on Kindle Unlimited. So Amazon is the second best place to get stuff.
Okay.
As for HP Hollow, and both of us share a lot of the same sites too, but there's hollowwriting.com. It lists all of our books. And anything else, Jacob?
Well, I mean, that's basically for my stuff. Ditto, with the addition that my traditional published stuff is also available at Bain.com.
Yep.
I will link that in the show notes as well. So, all righty. Well, with that being said, this is the part, dear listener, where I remind you to please be kind and speak your mind on the reviewing platform. Your reviews help the right readers find the right book, so do your part. And if you don't like the NSFW stuff, maybe don't buy it and read it and then give it a bad review for your inability to pay attention. Just throwing that out there. All right. So with that being said, you can find us on our Linktree, linktr.ee, Linktree/Blasters and Blades podcast. Again, Linktree/Blasters and Blades podcast, where we link to all the things, the BitChutes, the Rumbles, the YouTubes, the Twitters, our email for professional purposes only at blastersandbladepodcast@gmail.com. We also have a Facebook group and Facebook page for the podcast. And finally, we have Madam Stabby Stab on Instagram, Twitter, and email, where you can send all of your shenanigans for the unprofessional side of things. She will make you cry when she replies, though, so you have been warned. With that being said, you can follow us on our website at anchor.fm/blasters-and-blades. Again, anchor.fm/blasters-and-blades, where for as little as 99 cents a month, you can help keep the lights on. These episodes aren't free to produce, so we appreciate your patronage. And if you want to support us more directly, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Again, buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Be sure to put in the comment section that's for the podcast, and I promise I will keep my co-hosts duly caffeinated. They will drink until the frou-frou coffee pours out of Stabby's eyeballs. Only the frou-frouist for her, but that's okay. I drink it too, Stabby. No shame. No shame. All right. And before we let you go and I read the outro, this is the part where I forgot the most important part. Since we are affiliate sponsors with Coffee Brand Coffee, what kind of coffee would Clark drink?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm kind of surprised we haven't thought of that yet. Go for it, Jacob. It's your character.
You're the coffee expert.
Oh, okay. Clark, to me, seems like a very practical guy. So if he's not going to drink coffee just straight up black, it's going to be like maybe with a single sugar cube or maybe a little bit of milk in it. Like, he doesn't strike me as a really complicated coffee guy.
So he's not the one with like a dozen words thrown in before his Starbucks order that generally mean nothing and just makes him feel important?
Yeah, I think Clark is the kind who would basically just want wet caffeine and not really care much as long as it's just energizing.
Oh my God, I relate with this dude so much.
You'd relate more if he put bourbon in his coffee.
Hey, we haven't.
He'll probably want to do that eventually, given some of the stuff he's going to be fighting. He needs some relaxation.
Well, if you've been to PTSD counseling at the VA, they do say certain activities are good to fight the demons. And I'm just going to leave it out there that the Monster Hunter universe would approve of those actions. And we will leave it at that. All right. Thank you for spending some of your precious time with us. For my crazy and probably thinking I'm nuts right now co-host, I am J.R. Handley, and this was the Blasters and Blades podcast. We'll be back next week at the same time, where we'll indulge our love of nerd culture, cheesy jokes, and all things that go boom. Thank you for coming on, Jacob and Heather. This was way too much fun. I'm surprised I can build this as work because I was laughing the whole time on mute because I was giggling like a schoolgirl, but it's cool. I don't mind.
No, thank you for having us. This was fun.
And now I have to buy these books, and it's all your fault. So don't spend the money all in one place.
We appreciate your readership.
And with my purchases, you should be able to buy at least one more frou-frou coffee.
Yes.
Outstanding. Share some with Jacob, just to be nice.
Yeah, a little bit. You can have a little bit, Jacob.
Okay.
That's love right there. Stabby doesn't share her coffee with Nick.
No.
I don't drink
All
that
right.
trash.
And we're out.